In the area. So far today, no serious clashes have been reported. Our correspondent at the scene there, RT's Konstantin Rojkov now.
Right now, we're standing in front of the nation's parliament, which became the epicenter of the current political crisis in Armenia. There's heavy police presence in the area. Officers basically cordoned off the parliament building, and those right now they're changing. And those police officers in the front row, they don't have firearms, only batons, but the security behind the fence over there, well, they do have automatic firearms. And, you know, as far as what's going on right now here on the street, well, you can see people behind me, they just kind of wandering around, chatting peacefully about the latest news. Several dozen opponents of the incumbent Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan stayed here overnight, demanding his resignation. And from what we're seeing here, they are bracing for a prolonged standoff, setting up tents, barricades, loading up in supplies and firewoods. I guess this is another sign that the latest round of the power struggle in Armenia could be here to stay. And we spoke with several people from the crowd. Some of them were members of the opposition parties, and they didn't mince their words when talking about Nikol Pashinyan and his policy.
Our demands haven't changed. We call on the Prime Minister to step down. We will make him quit, but only through public pressure, through the Constitution. We're not seeking a decision by force.
The General Staff simply called on Pashinyan to quit. Yet he decided to grant it an attempt.
Came after a turbulent chain of events in the country's capital yesterday. The protests were sparked by Armenia's top military command calling on the Prime Minister to step down, claiming, and I quote, that his ineffective management has led the country to the brink of death. Pashinyan immediately fired back, accusing those who demanded his resignation of an attempted military coup and calling his supporters to take to the streets. The opposition that backed the military commanders has staged its own rally in Yerevan as fighter jets flew past.
My order to all soldiers, officers, generals, do your job, guard borders and the territorial integrity of Armenia. This is my order, and no one can disobey. Today we're holding this rally, and we'll finish all actions. We'll sit down at the negotiating table with the opposition for consultations on elections.
Well, right now it seems like the Prime Minister is trying to tone it down a bit. He took to his Facebook this morning claiming that he has done a lot for the country's military, increased salaries and, bought plenty of new equipment, but it's unlikely that the message will resonate among hardcore opposition that is present here at the parliament. And yesterday we saw that the situation on the ground can escalate pretty fast. Right now, it's a wait-and-see approach. The opposition has called on a massive rally in Yerevan. Well, of course, we're going to keep our fingers on the pulse.
Yeah, of course, back to later. Well, to force their message home, opposition supporters blocked Yerevan streets for a time, paralysing traffic. And then Pashinyan himself also marched through those same streets of the capital with supporters who had this to say.
We came to the square answering the call from our Prime Minister. We stand with him to the end. He must put an end to all this.
There are of course failures, but this form of governmental transition is definitely not acceptable to me. The government should be charged through elections in which only the people have the decisive vote.
We came to see our Prime Minister off to Republic Square so the whole world knows that the people support him, and an attempted military coup in such difficult times seems unacceptable to me.
Now, winding this back a bit, national tensions escalated in November over the signing then of a peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan on that disputed region, Nagorno-Karabakh. Armenia's government had vowed victory in the war, but the agreement was seen as humiliation for the government and the country. Demonstrators reacted to the truce by storming the government building in Yerevan. They strongly opposed the Prime Minister's decision to end the fighting and the agreement thereof, adding that they would not give up territory ceded under the deal. Pashinyan had agreed then to let Azerbaijan hold on to key parts of the area. It caused dismay to a lot of Armenians. Many said they'd never forgive him for the loss. We got reaction on the developments. First off, the former Prime Minister of Nagorno-Karabakh.
I think that what he's doing very deliberately. It's a mission given to him by someone from the West. We all believe that he came to power with one goal: to draw Russia away from the Southern Caucasus, from Armenia, to make Russia leave the region so that the Turkish military can enter the Southern Caucasus, and so that NATO can gain a foothold in the region. This did not have the support of the military or the people. Essentially, the whole of civil society demands that the Prime Minister step down. I do not believe that he can survive this.
And in other elements of this too, much of the current volatility has been fueled by a top-level dispute over army weaponry. Covering that in more detail, Donald Courter next.
There must always be someone to blame for losing a war. What leader would blame himself, right? He wouldn't be a leader for much longer. That was the dilemma hanging over Prime Minister Pashinyan, and he made his move. He blamed Russian weapons for his country's military defeat in Nagorno-Karabakh in autumn. He said Russia's electronic warfare systems could not handle Turkish drones used by Azerbaijan's armed forces. The Prime Minister's attack on Russia's military-industrial complex added that the Russian-made Iskander missiles either did not explode or, quote, exploded 10%. It's not exactly clear what the PM meant by that. Were only 10% of the missiles launched? Did missiles hit only 10% of their targets? Neither statement has any confirmed substance behind it, since no evidence was provided to back Pashinyan's claims. What is known is that such unreliable weaponry would clearly never be accepted into Russian military service, or by those who buy Moscow's weapons, like the Armenian military, which Pashinyan is now at odds with. In fact, Russia's Ministry of Defense says none of their Iskander missile systems were in any way involved in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, giving Russia's defense officials the impression that Pashinyan's been given inaccurate information.
According to the objective and reliable information available to us, no missile systems of this type were used during the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. It appears that Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan was misled and used inaccurate information.
The Deputy Chief of the General Staff rejected the Prime Minister's claims about the unreliability of Russian equipment, calling his statement frivolous. He then lost his post. A chain reaction ensued, with the military demanding Pashinyan's resignation, and then the Chief of the General Staff himself was dismissed. And all that brought us to today's standoff in front of the government buildings, with the fate of the Armenian state itself hanging in the balance.
Yeah, so what now? Well, experts told us the only democratic way out of this crisis is to go for snap elections.
It should be up to the people to decide their form of governance, but certainly the military will want to have their say. They're very upset, that they lost the war, and they want to make sure that they have a stake in the outcome of the next election. They really want to force him into a position where he has to leave office. And we'll just see how the Prime Minister is able to maneuver and handle such a delicate situation.
People looking for blame, people who can't really basically accept the new reality, which is that they have lost a lot of territory. But Pashinyan didn't start the war. Pashinyan wasn't to blame for that. It's the military and the build-up over many years of not arming the military properly and not seeing what Azeris were planning. If they try and physically remove him or lock him up and take over power and in the normal sort of military coup way, they would lose a lot of legitimacy at the same time as they were getting rid of Pashinyan. So I think the election solution is the best for everybody, including for the army. And the opposition has a very good chance of winning. So if they have sense, they will draw back, because we don't want clashes in the street with these two huge demonstrations, perhaps meeting each other and fighting it out, or the army coming in and finding some resistance from other forces. So the elections are undoubtedly the best solution for everybody.